How close do I need to be?
It's gonna be a little lag, of course. It always took too long.
Biggest
What's up?
now, Russ paid for his Rachel, being here. Russ, I've seen already, I've seen Rachel today, stuff, just, if you know, much longer than you have, or whomever, anybody has questions, anything other than very specific about this program. I'll either all defer it, whatever you want to hear, or, okay, we'll do something like that. Try to get some others. Oh, yeah, I mean, I can anticipate that they might say, well, why did you pick up 3.0 BA instead of 2.5 or, whatever. Yeah. It was completely, I mean, well, I mean, and I mean, the truth, and I don't have any problems sharing the truth, is it was arbitrary decision. You know, it was just as an experiment, it turned out okay, but, you know, but, so that was when I shared this with you, well, why didn't you? You know, that's right. So we'll see. Hopefully,
Dan Pierce is not here today, so I'm going to call my roll here for commission members. Please answer if you are present. Jerry Bevco. Dennis Bland. Present. Sarah Corral. John Costas. Present. Susana Duarte de Suarez.
Present.
Lisa Hirschman.
Present.
Alan Hubbard. Chris Murphy. Dan Peterson. John Pop. Here. Karen Whitehouse.
Here.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. And at this time, I'd like to recognize President Paul Ferguson with Ball State as he comes to us with his welcoming remarks. Thank you, President Ferguson, for joining us.
So thank you so very much and welcome everybody. I thought I would just make my welcoming remarks very brief since we have spent so much wonderful time together over the last day and a half. I think we've had a wonderful time exposing the wonderful aspects of Ball State University, and we've seen some wonderful examples of what immersive learning is and the quality of undergraduate education and the challenges we face in providing that high quality education. We're just so pleased to have you for the formal meeting, and we've been pleased to host you for the last day and a half. I'm glad that your meeting has been productive and enjoyable. I'm glad you've been involved. So continue and enjoy the day. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to begin my remarks with the expression of thanks again on behalf of the commission. Thank you, President Ferguson, and campus leadership for our guided tour of Ball State campus yesterday, and for hosting a reception at the David Allison Museum of Art last night, and for hosting our meeting today. We had the privilege of meeting with some former students and seeing some programming here that is being done, projects with Ball State, and it was very both entertaining and I think instructive in terms of the way education is going, is happening now and in the future. At this time, I'd like to recognize our two new commission members, and we did have them talk to us earlier today in our working session about their backgrounds a little bit, but I'd like to do this again now on the record for everyone here. Lisa Hirschman, if you go ahead and kind of tell us about where you're from and what you do.
Great, thank you. Lisa Hirschman, I represent the 4th District. I'm the CEO of the De Novo Group, and we work with a wide variety of organizations on everything from scalability, improvement to complete turnaround. So I get a lot of feedback from executives on hiring resources and so forth. So I'm excited to be here and have an opportunity to give input and to learn. So both give and receive as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lisa. Sarah, go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Sarah Krell, and I'm a new student commission member. I grew up in Miami County, just north of Peru, Indiana, and I have a really strong background in career and technical education as a student, where I was really involved with FFA and agricultural education. And that's what led me to Purdue, where I will be a junior this fall, dual majoring in agricultural education and agricultural economics. And I'm looking forward to returning to Miami County upon graduation.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to have you here. Lisa, thank you. At this time, with these additions, we have a bittersweet departure. That's Mike Smith, a longtime member and served as chair. He's left the commission to serve on DePauw's Board of Trustees. We have a resolution honoring Mike for his service on the commission, and Mayor Costas will read the resolution for Mike.
Thank you. I'm honored to do so. It's a resolution from the State of Indiana Commission for Higher Education dated August 14, 2014. Whereas Michael Smith served with distinction on the Indiana Commission for Higher Education since his appointment in July 2006 and reappointment in July 2010 to represent the 5th Congressional District. And whereas he has always approached challenges facing higher education from a statewide perspective with attention to how Indiana's system of higher education serve the needs of students. And whereas Mike generously devoted his time and talent to the commission, taking an active interest in all aspects of the commission activity, and serving as vice chair of the commission from 2008 to 2009 and chair from 2009 to 2011. And whereas he has been a dedicated member of the Budget and Productivity Committee since that committee was created in 2011 and served as chair of the committee since 2013. And whereas Mike played a key role in the development of 4 biennial budget recommendations, most recently during crucial discussions of performance funding as part of the Commission's 2013-2015 biannual budget recommendation. And whereas he has consistently advocated for a transparent, comprehensive understanding of university finances, and whereas Mike helped shape the Commission's strategic vision as expressed in reaching higher, and achieving more, and whereas his passion for this work is reflected in his contributions to multiple organizations and causes that promote opportunity and excellence, now therefore be it resolved that the Indiana Commission for Higher Education expresses its deep appreciation to Michael Smith for his 8 years of service to the state on behalf of Indiana Higher Education, and wishes him every success as he continues his commitment to higher education as a member of the DePauw University Board of Trustees. I know I'm speaking for the entire commission when I say Mike always serves with poise, with talent, obvious talent, and just a commitment to making the world a better place for students and for all of us. So let's take a moment to just thank Mike for his service to the commission. Please, or anybody else has a comment on Mike's
Well, I would just tell members of the commission that we're trying in November, the night preceding the commission meeting, so it'll be November 12th, to have some sort of a reception or an event for Mike to acknowledge his efforts over a long period of time, and certainly counsel to both you and to members of the staff. I just wanted to ask you to put that on your calendars for the November meeting when we're back again in Indianapolis.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, John. I actually need a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you very much, John. And thanks again to Mike Smith. In my dying moments as chair, now that we have a forum today, for sure, I can say that I'd like to take a few minutes. Teresa asked me to maybe say a few words about what it's meant to be the chair over the last year. And what I thought I'd do a little bit is talk a little bit more broadly about education in general and what I've learned through this commission and been exposed to and been able to bring back to my job and my life. So I wrote a few notes here, so bear with me, because it's funny because we're in my backyard for this last meeting, and this is where I do most of my work, so you're going to hear Ball State a lot. It's what my organization, Ball Brothers Foundation, funds. Things that you hear about, though, can be done in any community, and they are being done in a lot of the communities that you live in and serve in, and you'll notice the DNA probably of some of these programs I mentioned later in my notes, but I just want to say that because I know we strive to be very unbiased, but you will hear a lot about Ball State and this and some other organizations in this community. The last year has driven home the fact that we're in an unprecedented time of reflection regarding every aspect of education. The things I've been exposed to through the institutions in this state solidify the fact that we need to tie many traditional and new methods of education together. We talk about change when a lot of efforts we need to focus on are simply bridging the continuum of lifelong education together more smoothly. Many educational programs are far simpler than expected, yet extremely effective. I know that we are a society, that we as a society need to prepare our children to be ready for kindergarten so they can read by 3rd grade, so that they are then prepared to learn. Then we must prepare our children to strive for career pathways through higher education and other options. Some examples from my backyard in this community are our Muncie B5 program, and I just want to hit on what that is very quickly. It's a coalition dedicated to ensuring all Delaware County children are kindergarten ready by 2020. This involves too many partners to name, but one of the first things that we've done as a community through B5, the organization, is a kickoff to kindergarten program. And I can tell you it's been extremely effective. In Muncie alone, only 50% of children hitting kindergarten are ready to start kindergarten. Another program is called MP3. MP3 is an intensive out-of-school learning program led by Ball State for a small cohort of kindergarten through 3rd graders from Longfellow Elementary and Muncie School, with a high percentage of students receiving free free and reduced price lunches. Again, a highly effective program that I won't go into all the statistics because we don't have time, but if I'm mentioning these things, they've been highly effective, and we're very excited about the results of these programs. The next thing is, I pushed this with the commission for a long time, and it got into reaching higher, so I'm really happy. But the organization that we've, from Ball Brothers' standpoint, have funded, along with many others, but one of our pets is Project Leadership, an organization out of Grant County. Project Leadership started just trying to get kids signed up, students signed up for 21st Century Scholars. I'll just read very quickly just a couple statistics here. Since Project Leadership was launched in 2009 in Delaware County, scholar enrollment in Delaware County has increased from 28% to more than 80%. Let me give you a little perspective on that. In July of 2009, there was 472 signups. In July of 2010, there was 1,450 signups. So if you say there's 1,000 more students signing up, and none of those students who are eligible and go through the 21st Century Scholars are listed as scholars when they hit 12th grade and they do not go on to college, that obviously is a failure. But if you look at it, if only 6% of those 1,000 go on to college, and this is using my average of tuition, if only 6% of those 1,000 go on to college, my foundation's return on investment is at a break even. We put $876,000 into Project Leadership since 2008. So that's spread across those years. So I'm just using that 1,000 students in 1 year as an example of if we can get 50% or even 25% of those students to enter college and become successful and get their degree or certificate or whatever they're going to do, I think we've been successful. This program is so incredible. And it's expanding, and again, it'll take more time than we have today. Another program is TeenWorks, and as some of you have probably heard of this, the 8-week summer program employing at-risk youth. This is an Ivy Tech and Ball State program. The students work in the morning, and they actually they're being taught in the afternoon, and this has been a great program here. Another thing that my foundation has been part of, and it's at Ball State, is the Virginia Ball Center for Creative Inquiry. That was ground zero for the immersive learning. You know, immersive learning is becoming so much, I think is a good thing. It's becoming much more common, and people are using it so much more across this campus and beyond. But that was one of the places where immersive learning started on this campus. They have such incredible and diverse seminars, and the students there just get a great experience in the real world. The next thing is the Honors College here. We funded some things that I think we all know we need good educators, and Ball Brothers has funded a fellows program in the Honors College here to have the best and brightest teaching the best and brightest. The David Owsley Museum of Art, we need arts and culture, a vibrant society. It depends on this, and it's a great experience for students and the community alike, and that is named after a Ball family member, David Owsley. And that is an extremely important part of our community, not just the university. And I'll switch back again. Another thing we funded here from Ball Brothers' standpoint is the Immersive Learning Fund. Now, that's a more general fund, but it's to create seed money for faculty to explore the immersive learning experience for their students, to try new things, and we're very excited about some of the things that have come out of that. So the last thing I touch on specifically is we do an Excellence in Teaching Award, and it's to high school, elementary and high school teachers in this Delaware County, just in this area. And it's so important, I think I've read 2 reports recently that have shown how testing is not doing much for our students, but good teaching is. The comparisons are kind of off the charts when you get a good teacher in a classroom versus more testing. And so we started 2 years ago, our first recipient of the Excellence in Teaching Award. Her name was Holly Stockler from Yorktown. This year it was Julian Ravenscroft from Daleville. And they're just incredible. We wanted to just elevate and show what great teachers there are in this area, and thought that was extremely important to talk about in front of the public and make sure their schools and all the schools and all the teachers were celebrated in general through this award. And so I take this very seriously, and thank you for letting me talk about them, because I know a lot of us have some of these same programs, but we're very proud of these. They've been very effective. The aforementioned items are sometimes bold new ways to assist students in completing their education. Some are just common sense applications that are often overlooked in the frenzied tumult of a million ideas competing against each other. 3 things I'd like to say to make sure we don't go off the deep end with our education in general outlook. Don't change things just for the sake of changing things. Number 2, continue to try to take items that work and apply them regardless of the credit, and then evolve when necessary is the 3rd thing. Commissioner Lovers and her staff have made this past year extremely fulfilling and really easy due to their preparation and professionalism. Commend the state agency for not being too bureaucratic and working with the institutions in the name of student success. I'd like to thank Teresa, her staff, my fellow commission members, and former Governor Daniels for allowing me the pleasure of playing a part in our state's education mission. My grandfather, John Fisher, never served on Itchy, but he assisted in its creation, which he never told me before he died. It has been an honor to fill the chair's position, and continues to be an honor to serve as a member, as part of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, in the name of enlightenment and enhancement of skills and knowledge in this state and beyond. Thank you. So now, before we continue with our regular meeting items, I would like to propose the officer slate for 2014-2015 to the Commission. This slate was created by the nominating committee consisting of 1 member per class, and the slate includes Dennis Bland as chair, Dan Peterson as vice chair, and Susana Duarte Suarez as secretary. And now I'd like to ask for a motion to approve this slate. Is there any discussion? And all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? We have a new slate, and I am done, so Dennis, you can. Congratulations and good luck.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am like my predecessor. I don't like to talk much, so if you just bear with me as I at least try to acknowledge this program honor. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize Jed for his quiet, excellent leadership. In fact, I'm currently reading a book entitled Quiet by Susan Cain. And the more you read the book, the more you understand just how exceptional Jed is. So I really appreciate and admire your ability to lead. There are 14 members that represent the Commission for Higher Education. And it is set up so that we bring different regional perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences. And so if you'll indulge me, I would like to share my background, my experience, my perspective in the whole, that it will bring some contribution to the important public service that we provide. I am the son of sharecroppers. My mother and father lived on property that they did not own. My mother was born in Vicksburg, Ohio, Mississippi. And my father was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi. So by the time I was in 6th grade, I had attained more formal education than my mother and father combined. So when I hear first generation college student, it's a striking notion to me, because I represent the first generation in my family that did not work in the cotton field, and the first generation that was not precluded from education because of their race. I am the youngest of 8. My mother passed when I was 5 years old due to cancer. There were 8 just from that perspective, I have the greatest sense of humility and the greatest honor that's been bestowed upon me, but also upon my father and my mother. With that, please know that I am here for one reason, and that is to try to make a contribution as everyone else has contributed to the advancement of education in the state. I think I have perhaps a threefold focus generally going forward. Number one, I want to give due credit to the individuals who led before me by continuing this pursuit of our strategic plan of reaching higher achieving more. It's a wonderful plan, and there were some exceptional leaders who have helped guide us through the plan. I want to give due deference to them and making sure we continue on that exceptional plan. With that, I do want to make sure that we go back and just re-examine to see how we're doing and to see what we can do working in partnership with our colleges and universities to continue to make headway. Number two, I would like to continue to focus on public will building. How do we continue to work with the commission to actually see education as a value in our state, but in doing so also continue to build a culture of education that we would like to see throughout the state. We know that culture is not there. We would like to try to do everything we can to continue to try to build that culture. And then finally, there was a sensitivity that I have for all the young people who attend college in our state. And we work with an organization called the Center for Leadership Development. All the time I was asked the question, as a leader, what keeps you up at night? And so this gives me an opportunity to bare my soul and tell you all what keeps me up at night, which I hope is how we can contrast as a nation. One thing that keeps me up at night is the name Laura Spire, attended Indiana University. I've never met her. I've read the headlines, but I can assure you the story keeps me up at night and it has since the time that it occurred in 2011, I believe. I think it would be important that the Commission for Education at some point made a statement, had its own resolution and talked about the importance of us talking about just alcoholic consumption in our campus. The damage that it's doing to our young people. And the inhibition that it creates as we try to push college succession, college completion. And then the second concern is certainly the issue of date rape and rape of young ladies on our campuses. I just think it's important from a leadership perspective that someone just says that we care. We're concerned that we understand the partnership with colleges and universities as they address those important issues. So with that, I'll close by saying, I am humbled to serve, and I want to do everything we can to help the state. If this, over the next year, if 1% of this becomes about me, then I have failed profoundly. It really is about trying to help this state do better where education is concerned. So thank you for your patience, and with that, I will turn it over to Lisa, Chairman for our Commissioners Report. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know about those of you in the audience, but I had a lump in my throat at least once or twice when you were speaking. So thank you. Thank you, Jed, for providing great leadership. I'm cognizant of Dennis's comments about quiet leadership and a little self-conscious about being between these two. But having said that, I do want to say we're so grateful for the kind of volunteer leadership that we have from every member of the commission. I said on multiple times, we ask a lot of people who serve on this commission in terms of a commitment of time and intellectual capacity and just a desire to do better for the students of the state. And we never take for granted what we ask for you to do and what you give to us. So thank you very, very much. I want to say thank you again to President Ferguson and his staff for hosting us in such a gracious and generous way since we've been here on campus for the last day and a half. It's been a great experience for us. The highlight really being having a chance to meet your new leadership, and then I think also for those of us who were together at lunch today, listening about some of the great success stories coming out of from the students at Ball State and really changing the economic outlook and scene in the state of Indiana through their successes. As usual, I usually make a couple comments and highlight some of the projects that are underway and try to highlight some of the new ones as well. I think it would be safe to say that the lazy days of summer had nothing to do with the commission and probably any of you either, as we have continued to move in an unrelenting fashion to try to address really significant issues facing us in the state. So let me just mention a couple of those. You will recall, I think I mentioned to you a month or so ago that Indiana had been selected as one of the 3 states by Alumni Center America to receive the Guided Pathway to Success grant. And I wanted to let you know that the work is well underway. Overall, focus is, of course, to be much more intentional about student success, remove obstacles, and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that students complete. The consultants have conducted both a progress and a needs assessment for the campuses and really tried to identify what the obstacles and challenges might be. In October of this year, we'll host the first of 3 statewide planning meetings to really talk about what the GPS implementation will look like, especially with a focus in the future on transfer pathways and math pathways as well. We've talked a lot about math, so speaking of math, we know that it continues to be one of the reasons why some of our students don't persist in college, and many are in remediation and don't succeed in the remedial courses. And I'm pleased to announce that Indiana has been selected for another Mid-College America opportunity, and basically it's to develop a math approach, a new math approach that's aligned with degree programs. I'm sure those of you are familiar with Ivy Tech know that they're looking at 3 math pathways. We know that as we look at K-12, they're looking at new math pathways as well, ensuring academic rigor, but making sure that we can redesign math so that it isn't a stumbling block for completion for our students. Just a couple minutes, I know I sent to each of you a notice that I was going to have the opportunity to testify before the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension. And I did that on July 24th. Deliberations are underway, as they have been for a while, and will probably continue to be, on the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. And they've had a multitude of people coming in and a series of meetings. This one was really designed to talk about the state's role in higher education. And joining me on the panel was the president of the University of Minnesota, a higher education researcher from Pennsylvania, the Attorney General, Lisa Madigan from Illinois, who's been very involved with issues related to lending practices in particular. And then I had a chance to sort of highlight, on behalf of some of the states, what we were doing. As those of you who have had a chance to do this before, you know there's a little timer there, so you have 5 minutes. I can usually fit a lot in 5 minutes, but it is just 5 minutes. But we did have a chance to submit a longer version of the testimony as well. I highlighted some of the good work that you have been doing, talking about what we can do to improve student success, but tried to be very pointed in what we thought would be helpful to make sure that what's happening at the federal level aligns with what we're doing at the state level, with the understanding that the states are really ultimately responsible for education policy. And so we talked about iPads and ways that iPads, the data system could be improved so that it no longer just reports on first-time, full-time students, but actually includes a broader range of students, which, as you know, we've tried to do with our completion reports here in Indiana, but it's really important for iPads to do that. We looked at the issues related to financial aid. I talked a little bit about sort of truth in lending with federal loan programs and stafford loan programs, so students have a better understanding of lending practices. In that regard, I had a chance to shine a light on IU's recent efforts to simply by notifying students when they borrow money what their monthly payments are going to be, the impact that would have on the amount of money that we borrow. And we know that the great story for IU that is in 9 months, they saved about 11% of borrowing went down to the tune of, I trying to recall exactly how many million, I think it was about $31 million that was saved in student borrowing during that short period of time. Just, once again, a common sense approach to practices that I think you can see that the states are really the laboratories for those kinds of ideas. We encourage them to look at full-time as 15 completed hours instead of 12 attempted hours, which would certainly align with our policies. And of course, we ask them to reconsider, as others have as well, funding summer Pell at a time that we're trying to use buildings and the time in the summer and give students more opportunity to make up so that if they don't take, they only take 12, they can take a course in the summer and still stay on target to keep their financial aid. We don't want the federal policies to work at cross purposes with ours. So I think it was a good opportunity for us to highlight some of Indiana's stories and I think some of our early commitments and hopefully successes. I know Mary Jane told me earlier today that the chairman of the NASGAP, which is the National Association that looks at financial aid officers, actually submitted a letter to Senator Parkin and acknowledged some of the efforts that we talked about in the testimony and their hope that they would consider some of those when they look at the reauthorization. So I think it was a great opportunity for us and for me to be able to really brag about some of the things that are happening in Indiana. A couple more things and then I will close. Earlier this week, and Susanna mentioned this when she talked about her committee work this morning, but we did receive a $2.4 million grant from USA funds to actually look at the coaching and ultimate greater success for our 21st Century Scholars on 3 of our campuses in Indiana. It's called Inside Track, and it comes with a guarantee of increasing both persistence and graduation rates, and it's an evidence-based program, so we're excited about that. A complementary effort, I think, was really introduced at IU through their Office of Completion and Student Success, when they really are committed to trying to provide better data, use of technology, and multiple other efforts to make sure that our students are more successful. Finally, I would like to highlight an announcement made by Purdue earlier this week, and that was that the students in their Brian Lamb School of Communication will now have the option to earn a bachelor's degree in 3 years. You may recall that President Daniels initiated a competitive program allowing departments within the school to compete for a $500,000 grant for new innovative ideas. And if this was accepted as the idea that was going to receive the prize for this year, the money will be used to track student progress. Not only will it save students money and time, but it will be used to track student progress and hopefully market the program in the future. So I try to highlight a few of the efforts. I know there are many other efforts going on in other campuses. Great ideas are coming from every institution, really all designed around trying to improve student success. So we remain very committed to being good partners with you in that effort.
Thank you, Teresa. And as we folks also mentioned during the meeting this morning, is the exceptionalism of the staff, the team here with the Commission for Higher Education. So the update this further confirms the outstanding work that the entire staff does. Now we will have a consideration of our board minutes for approved minutes for our June 12th public meeting.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of our commission meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We will now go into our public square session, and we are honored to have a distinguished group of panelists who will help us address a public topic of financial barriers to college completion. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you all. We have John Laws, who represents Ivy Tech Community College, Carl McGinnis, Vice President for Local Management and Student Services. We have Karen Schmidt, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Purdue North Central. And then we have
welcome panel. This is an exciting issue for me because it's sort of economics in action. It's not the exciting one in the room, but the concept of price and how price sort of impacts how much people buy of something or how much they want of something is really integral to this discussion. So we're going to talk very narrowly about one particular barrier to completion, which is the issue of the cost of taking a physical course. So in some institutions, you pay the same rate to take anything from 12 to 18 credits, 12 to 21 credits. So essentially, every course beyond 4 is free. So you're paying the same price. So there's sort of this inherent benefit to taking more courses. It doesn't cost any extra money. We talked this morning about 15 finish efforts. We've been talking with advisors. We've been really looking at these issues of what are the really solvable problems standing between students and on-time completion. And one thing that's really bubbled up to the surface is some students can't pay for that course. The difference between 12 credits and 15 credits from a student budget and pocketbook is sometimes insurmountable. Students can only afford to take sort of the bare minimum, or at least they're thinking very short term, and that may be the only luxury they have is thinking very short term instead of looking at the long term and sort of box their degree. So we know that an on-time degree is the most cost-effective degree in the long term, but we also know that at every institution that charges by the credit hour, if you're looking at a semester tuition bill for 12 credits, it's going to be lower than tuition bill for 15. So, this is something that is very likely leading students to, in a very rational way, select 12 credits even if they know that 15 is on time or that 12 is not going to be on time. So we want to have a discussion about some creative solutions that some of our Indiana institutions have come up with, and so one out-of-state example that I can run through. We hope to bring someone from Oklahoma in to talk about some of the work that they've done on converting to flat rate tuition. They're one great example of a state that's really tackling it out of the state, and they're really scaling this flat rate tuition practice. But we're not able to get anyone, so you're going to be distant second in me trying to explain what they've done, and hopefully you won't see too many follow-up questions. So Oklahoma has said, why did they want to convert to a flat rate? It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. It encourages students to graduate sooner. It's what we're trying to do with 15 finish and a number of our other efforts. So finishing faster is important because it allows students to enter the workforce earlier, saves them 1 or 2 years of moving forward, reduces student loan debt. I would add to that, if I could go ahead and edit their website for them, that we also know that students finish faster, more likely to finish altogether, less likely that life is going to get in the way or obstacles will arise before graduation. So clear benefits to finishing faster, and Oklahoma certainly has tied their flat rate to students being able to finish faster. It's interesting the way they did this. So when you convert from a per credit hour tuition rate to a flat rate, the key decision you have to make is what flat rate do we choose? Do we choose the rate that students would pay if they were taking 12 right now? Do we choose what they would pay if they were taking 15? Or somewhere in between? So what Oklahoma did was actually kind of try to find a middle ground so that there was a clear incentive for students to take 15 as opposed to sort of the perception of a free course, but to not really sort of unduly penalize students in the process. So they selected a rate that was equal to what they were currently charging for 15 credits at the per credit hour rate, which you can see would certainly be perceived as a tuition hike for anyone who is currently taking 12, 13, or 14 credits. So to overcome that, the first thing they did was they gave some scholarships, sort of full term, like some of the students that were already in the pipeline, sort of entered in and made their plans based on this tuition structure. So there were some scholarships targeted to those students based on financial need. They implemented an appeals process for students who said, for whatever reason, like work commitments, family commitments, et cetera, taking 15 in a semester is not realistic. So they said, if you can make a compelling case for that, we won't charge you the rate based on 15, we'll charge you based on 12. So they put that into So it's actually kind of aligned with what we are now doing with financial aid to say, you know, we've got a 30-hour year, maybe the traditional way of doing it is 15 and 15. But if you want to spread that over, you know, into the summer term, that's okay too. So, you know, a few different mechanisms for students who, you know, weren't going to take 15 or couldn't take 15 in a traditional semester, but still clearly leading students to this goal of 30 completed credits per year. As I mentioned, they're doing this at scale, so the implementation timeline, they started with the University of Oklahoma. Fall of 2013, they made that switch. And then in fall of 2014, 3 more institutions came online with this: Oklahoma State, the University of Science and Arts at Oklahoma, and Langston University. Obviously, the first of these institutions just did this last year, so we only have year one results. They did see 1,000 more students took 15 credits after the switch. They estimate that that's going to lead to an increased graduation rate of 5%. They're expecting their summer enrollment to be up 30%, again, based on the idea of just banked hours. That some percentage of the students that had some banked hours that they would expect would take advantage of that. I'll mention with the banked hours, that also was built for online courses. So even students who, you know, left the actual campus went home, they could use those banked hours for the summer. And then of that appeals process I mentioned, there were about 300 appeals and 280 of them were granted. I'll end with a quote since I'm not here to represent them. I thought I'd at least read their words. The new flat tuition structure encourages students who might be tempted to enroll in minimum hours to obtain full-time status to take that extra class because, frankly, they're paying for it anyway. Economics in action. A lot of fun. So that was an out-of-state example of a way that the state is really trying to tackle this, you know, the marginal cost of the fifth course. But we have plenty of examples in the state as well. So I'd like to turn first to Paul Karen from Purdue North Central to talk about their tuition discount for credit hours above 12.
Well, thank you very much. And our presentation really fits in so well with what Sarah has just talked about, but also I think even more so with the 15 to finish discussion this morning and the whole 15 to finish program. So I'll give you a little bit of background on this. A little background on Purdue North Central and why we came up with this particular approach. At PNC, we still have close to 70% first-generation students. So I think it's important to know that background for our students. Most of them are low or moderate income. They tend to be very debt averse, our students and their parents, their families. And similar to the discussion this morning in 15 to finish, many students and parents believe that working many hours and taking fewer credits is the way to succeed. That is a very strongly held belief among, I would say, most of our students and their parents. So how do we approach that kind of a belief system that has been around for many, many years? Our typical enrollment at PNC is for 11 credits. It's been that way for quite a while, hovering around that level. And many students drop courses due to work and family conflicts. So they may start in 12 credits, let's say, and then they drop to 9 credits, a very typical type of pattern. The structure at the Purdue regional campuses is that we charge by credit hour. And I'll just put a little editorial in here. I think many of us would like to have flat tuition. We have been promoting that for years. However, Purdue regionals we all have to charge the same thing. So we can't do something different from the others. So that's a reality. But we are proponents of the protocol, and we very much like to see flat tuition for the reasons that Sarah has just articulated. I think we need to say that. But the tuition structure that we currently have, charging by the credit hour, is common at campuses with many non-traditional students. And then we don't have that, so it's not an option for our students. At the same time as we have a kind of a traditional type of student at PNC, we also are seeing many changes in our student population. We have more who are traditional age. Our average age now is 24, so it's dropped from several years older in the past. So we still serve many of those traditional students, but we have many more non-traditional We have many more traditional age. But at the same time, many of our traditional age students behave as non-traditional students because they have many family obligations. So they may be 18, 19, but they have a child, they have other family obligations, they're the sole support for their family, things like that. So even at 18, 19, 20, our students have many, many adult responsibilities in many cases. We are attracting more high-achieving students to PNC for a variety of reasons, but I think one reason is because so many are coming in with concurrent enrollment credits. So we do a lot with concurrent enrollment for a variety of reasons, but one of the effects of that is that more and more of our students are coming in with college credits already. And that is attracting a higher achieving group of students. And for example, one of our requirements to participate in our concurrent enrollment program is that students have to have a minimum of a 3L high school GPA. So those are good students, just by virtue of being in the program. And then also we know that they are students who have a lot of commitment to college because they're already taking the college level courses in high school. And they have learned how to study. Obviously one of the best impacts of concurrent enrollment, they start in college knowing how to study. But at the same time that we have more of the traditional or non-traditional students, we still have many non-traditional students. We serve many, many transfer students. That's an important part of our mission. We have many reentry students and many adult students. And we certainly want to continue serving that population. So with our, some of our overall goals here at PNC are to increase the number of credit hours taken and completed for all of our students. We want to increase timely degree completion, preferably 4 years, but for some students we know 5 years is a very worthwhile goal. We want to decrease the cost of attendance and loan debt. One of the big things we're trying to do is to change the culture at PNC. Again, similar to other discussions about 15 to finish, we certainly have that culture on our campus. Advisors, faculty, staff, parents, many, many people saying, well, take 12 credits, take 12 credits. Really, 15 would be too much. Take 12, and if you need to, drop the 9, that's fine. So that is a strongly embedded in our culture. So we've been working assiduously for the last several years to try to address that culture change in a variety of ways. Another goal with looking at our tuition structure was anything that we did to provide incentives or to change our tuition structure could not have an adverse effect on our budget. There would be many problems with that, of course. And it has to be mutually beneficial for the students, the university, and for the state. It has to certainly fit with the goals of the commission, whatever we do. We're very cognizant of that. So the solution that we have come up with is to incentivize students to enroll in 13 or more credits. And we had started this program just recently. We were just implementing it for this fall. So the way we have done this is we have a 10% rate reduction for each credit hour taken beyond 12 credits per semester. So for 13 credits and above, the students have a 10% reduction in their credit hours. And why did we take this particular approach? Well, we considered some other options. We looked certainly at what other universities have done, such as partial tuition rebates for on-time completion. And, there are benefits to a variety of programs, but we decided that wasn't exactly what we thought we needed for our population. We like the approach we have taken with the tuition discount because from 13 credits on up, because we think it encourages greater enrollment intensity from the first semester on. So we want to get students used to enrolling in 15 credits preferably from their first semester. So instead of having the incentive at the end of their program, we wanted to build it in from the very beginning. And we wanted to change their habits and have greater student focus on their educations. So make education your first priority instead of trying to divide so much with your work schedule and other things in life. And we also felt that the financial incentive speaks very directly to our students and their parents who are very concerned about economics.
I think Karen's right. One of the things that we did notice before getting into the baseline comparison was that in many ways, parents almost acted as a codependent in artificially holding the credit hours down. Being that so many of our students were first generation, the maternal and paternal instinct is to say, hey, maybe you need to slow down. Let's make sure your GPA is really strong. And why don't you start with maybe 4 classes rather than doing 5 classes? So the advice that they're getting from their parents is actually counter to the statistics that I'll be showing you in 1 second. It starts with a baseline. We looked at the fall 2012 cohort, and just by some weird synergy, 29% of our cohort came in with 12 credit hours, and 29 came in with 15 credits. So you couldn't have asked for a better baseline to start with. Then we looked at how many of the students dropped courses that had 12 credits versus the students with 15 credit hours. Now this is within the 29%. So of the 29% of the cohort that had 12 credit hours, you can see that 53% dropped a course in comparison to 48%. Now notice the scale, the percentages are significant, especially statistically significant, but just the truth in advertisement, you'll see it looks a lot bigger than what it really is, and that's a byproduct of Excel.
Figures don't lie, but liars can figure.
That's right. I figured. And then if you look, the real startling information is related to the full course withdrawals, which is really a stark difference. And students that had 12 credit hours fully withdrew from the university at 18%. In comparison to students at 15 credit hours, it was only 6%. Now you can say, oh, well, the 15 credit hour students maybe were better prepared or they were higher achieving students. This cuts across all academic readiness, and whether they were the highest achieving or the lowest achieving in their high school class, if they were admitted to our campus, they're in these statistics. So it can be both cognitive and non-cognitive. When we look at, as far as the credit hours and whether they remain full-time, there's some obvious, things that you can draw here. At 12 credit hours, if you withdraw, you're obviously falling part-time. If you're at 15 credit hours, and let's just say you run into a barrier and you withdraw, you're still going to be full-time. You're not running into financial aid issues, you're not running into other things. The resiliency of getting back on track is there. And of course, you can see the statistical difference, which is the 78% versus the 47%. Now, we're a little bit different than a lot of regionals that 76% of our students are full-time. Sometimes you'll see it about a 60-40 split or somewhere in that neighborhood. We're predominantly full-time. And of the full-time, in fall 2013, 41% had taken 13 or more credit hours. So that predates the discount that we were offering. So far, as of August 11th, 54% are now at 13 or more credit hours. So we believe it's a combination of the changes with state financial aid. We believe it's the changes with the 15 to finish and the mapping, as well as our discount program. So there's some synergy happening there that allows the students to go at a higher rate. Earlier we talked about average credit hours, and when you looked, Dr. Schmidt talked about an average of about 11 credit hours, and you can see that that was the case 4 years ago. It was 10.5. In comparison, as of 8/11, we were at 12.3. Now, it may not seem like a big difference, but what you're talking about is possibly graduating in 9 semesters at 12.3 versus 10.5, which you're over 6 years. And we know internally with our own statistics, if you go beyond 6 years, the likelihood of you completing your baccalaureate degree diminishes greatly. Actually, I would call it a steep slope. It just kind of goes like that. So if we can keep them under that mark and get them closer and closer to the 4-year graduation point, we're going to be helping our students. Roughly, if a student's taking 15 credit hours, they'll get about $500 back, or they will not be paying, so that's the discount. And again, about 54% of our students that are full-time are receiving the discount and taking 13 or more credit hours. Right now, or I should say as of August 11th, we've discounted about $102,000 to our students. And we're a pretty small campus, so that's a pretty good impact. The synergy that I talked about earlier is that we're working in conjunction with 15 to Finis. We're looking at the performance funding model. We're looking at the state changes in the state financial aid. Our advising has taken a complete turn. We're doing a lot more proactive advising, intrusive advising. Some say stalking. I like to stick with intrusive advising. It's going well, and we're also doing a lot with supplemental instruction, where the students can get an extra lecture per week and find out and have some redundancy if they're familiar with the topics. And about 1/3 of our students, again, are concurrent enrollment, so they have that academic readiness background.
We do have some concerns also, and we're going to be monitoring this, of course. And one of our concerns is the potential impact on student performance in general with this change. Will we see more students dropping classes? So we're going to be monitoring that carefully, and certainly the advisors and faculty working with students to discourage students from dropping as much as possible. We're going to be monitoring any impact on grades, positive or negative, we're not sure, but we'll be following that up. We'll be looking at success in subsequent courses as students are taking more classes. And we also are trying to be clear with everybody that 15 credits or more is not appropriate for all students. For many, yes, but certainly not for all. And we continue to have many non-traditional students who may be working full-time, have several children, other family obligations, and don't want to set students up for problems in that way. We'll be following other data to track the impact of the tuition discount on retention, for one thing. Will there be differences? We'll be looking at the demographics of students who are taking advantage of this discount. So what means school, major, age, gender, race, ethnicity, first generation versus not first generation. We'll certainly be looking at the grade point average, any differences that may emerge. Again, course withdrawals and transfer rate. Will this have an impact on transfer? And some of our next steps, we'll continue to track student academic progress and achievement. We'll be marketing the tuition discount program increasingly in conjunction with 15 to Finish, and consider flat tuition as an additional tool. So I think we'll be doing everything we can on our campus to help to persuade others that this is the way to go.
Some of the ways in which we're promoting is through our websites, admissions and financial aid. We've developed a whole communication campaign where we're communicating with parents, students, and it kind of goes in multimedia. I was telling Sarah, we're texting the parents, we're texting the students, we're emailing the students, we're doing phone calls to the students. We actually started a communication where we do it once a week to the parents, so they know during an 18-week semester what they need to expect from their son or daughter, or what they might be facing. At week 8, why are their son or daughter running around the house with high anxiety? Well, it's midterms. They're probably a little stressed out. So we're doing whatever we can to kind of use these communication channels of admissions and financial aid, use student orientation, advising. The faculty, of course, are quintessential, and in the bursar's office. Here's a quote from our chancellor. He reflects on what this means for our campus and the impact that it's had. I'll let everyone read that. And then if there's any questions, comments, or suggestions, should we wait till the very end and just move on?
No questions.
You mentioned you wanted to make sure you didn't spend any extra money. Is that working out? I mean, you have to hire any additional faculty, or is it pretty much neutral?
We haven't had to hire any additional faculty. The main thing with faculty is just to help them to understand the benefit of this, because like advisors, especially faculty who've been on campus for a long time, many of them remain with the idea that really 12 credits is about as much as a student should try to take on, especially early in their careers. And some of them are still thinking that most of our students are non-traditional, when most of them are not anymore. So it's more of a culture change effort, I think, with faculty. Now with advisors, there's increasing demand on advisors.
Yeah, it really takes the use of an automated degree audit system to kind of walk through the mapping. I mean, the importance is that the students take the 15 credit hours that fit the math. We just don't want to net up 3 credit hours and put students in an extra course so they can be discounted. Because that's kind of like, we've got a great sale for you. We've marked down something by 20%, but it's still costing you 80%. It's really not saving the students any amount of money. So it's got to fit into that plan of study. And so far, we haven't seen any additional costs, but advising will be an ongoing challenge.
I think the point you made about all the various factors that contribute to this, I mean, it's great to discount it. I'm sure the discount alone will only go so far, but certainly the emphasis coming from a lot of different voices, particularly from those that are advising their students, and then the empirical data about 50 credit hours. So that's how you create a culture is through various means, but it's great to see the results.
Absolutely, John. And it's a good point. I think what it does is it shows the parents just one more reason why they should do it and fight against that natural maternal or paternal instinct that they have.
I think one of the keys is repeated messages, just repeat it again and again and again for various angles. And we've already seen, I think, a lot of progress. It's going to take time to keep at it, to continue to make progress, but you know, I feel that we are really making some progress in the right direction.
Well, certainly culture takes champions, and I've seen firsthand that both of you have strong champions for online completion, faster completion, and student success. So thank you very much for that. Turning to another champion, John, would you like to talk about the approach that you've taken in your Ivy Tech region, working with scholarships and outreach to sort of alleviate this course?
Thank you, and first of all, thank you to Liz and Sarah who identified one of the things that was being done through the Ivy Tech system and then reached out to invite me here. So I thank you folks for recognizing not only the work you do and you hear about on a nationwide basis, but for hearing firsthand from practitioners, if you will, about some of the innovative things that are being done. And to that point, I want to make sure that I give you a disclaimer up front that this program that you're about to hear about was initiated by me on the Ivy Tech Community College Lafayette region only. And it was known about, but I do not represent the college per se. I am proud to be a staff member with the college, but certainly I want to make sure that I don't over-represent myself. So with that, let me begin that I started some time ago before really I was aware that the commission was doing the 15 to Finish program, but I was aware that other states and places were moving in this direction. And so I termed a program called 15 to Succeed, which is now being transformed into 15 to Finish, so that I'm in alignment with, and as Ivy Tech or my region continues to work this way, we want to make sure that we have repeatability of messages and not confusing the public and that sort of thing. But basically, as you can see, if you look at the slide, we were aware of national research and some community colleges that have had some success with some of their students being involved with heavier load, quote unquote heavier load. And so I believe that it might be a good option to add to our toolbox and to, if you will, the menu of opportunities that we provide to our students. It was not intended to get all of our students involved, but rather it was simply adding to our menu of approaches to help student success. So we basically came up with a two-phase approach to what we were doing. First, a general awareness that we had publicity on campus through a lot of different ways. In just a moment, you'll see a couple of posters, flyers that were around campus and distributed to people. And then we we talked with our faculty and our staff to help them understand the concept and then worked with them to say, when appropriate, pull this out of the toolbox and offer it to students, encourage them, what have you. And then the second approach was to actually target some students and invite them to participate in yet the second phase, which I will explain. So the opportunity to see things on campus, my colleagues of another institution here said, the redundancy of a message and awareness. That's what we were trying to do, is raise awareness through the concept of advertising and promotion, so people would see these signs on campus, and then when an advisor or a faculty member would say something to them, they'd say, oh yes, I remember. And so two examples here are shared with you to see the types of things that you're familiar with from national research and from other programs, and indeed 15 to Finish campaign. So nothing new in that sense, but again, raising an awareness to highlight possibilities for students to consider. Then the second phase was that we took a look at perhaps this would be a benefit to some students. And so I first looked at who was currently enrolled. And this was starting last December for enrollment for spring semester. So that sets the timeline for you. I took a look at who was currently enrolled, and then were degree-seeking students. Again, I was looking at a very small pilot effort, if you will, so started doing things that way. I excluded students that were already in selective programs or in very structured programs. The nursing program, for example, where they were lockstep in. I was not trying to upset the apple cart and try to tell faculty that students would not be available over here because they were going to sign up for another class and did not participate in some of the other activities or whatever. And whether it be the IB Institute or whether it was the nursing program or so many others types of programs, I excluded those folks. In part also because some of those do have heavier loads already. You're familiar with the program that Mike Smith has been so instrumental in, the ASAP program, as we call it, which is a very accelerated pace. And so, of course, those students were excluded from this as well. Then I looked at students that were enrolled in exactly 12 hours. I was not going after our part-time students, trying to convince them to go to full-time plus, as we define it, but rather look at students that believe that full-time was appropriate for them, and so I hit that number, but did not go above that because I was going to be working with this population to try to encourage them to take more. I didn't already need to communicate with the converts, if you will, those folks. So we did that, and then I started getting even more selective, and I said, I want to make sure that this is appropriate, that they can handle the workload. And so I looked at them for those students that had 30 hours of credit with us. So they've been with us and understood the rigors of our institution and the programs they were in, and then looked at their GPA. And if they had a 3.0 or better GPA, then this was my target population. So again, not by any means all the students at ITech Lafayette, but rather quite a narrowed down subset. This last point is the repeatability of the program. I have started this, continued this program, and what I am looking to do with students is to change the culture and the way they think of higher education and their workload. And so I specifically said if they had received information in this offer, which you're about to hear about, from me before, that I excluded them from the second opportunity to take advantage of this offer. So you'll understand that more in just a moment, hopefully. Selected students, I identified 102 within our region, and reached out to them and invited them to participate. 32 of those folks, so rough numbers, a third of them, only a third of them, expressed interest in learning more. And even though the letter that I sent to them and then follow-up conversations gave them pretty good information, of the 32, one person said, yeah, you know, on second thought, no, this is not appropriate for me. So dropped before she started the program. And then basically what I did is I paid for their additional class. Literally, the initial invitation to them was, congratulations, we think this might be an opportunity for you. It is not for everyone. I made sure I said that in the invitation, that it is not for everyone, but we think you're a good candidate for you to consider this. If you would like to take an additional course, the tuition and fees will be paid by me. And I'm generous, but my institution. I did specifically indicate that if they took the class and took advantage of this opportunity, that books and other incidental costs were on them. They had to be prepared for that additional expense. And so you'll see that just under $10,000 from discretionary money was used. This was not a discount for tuition, but rather from foundation money and discretionary money that the institution had that I was able to divert over just so the students would not be paying that out of pocket. Here are the results. Their grades for the semester, the spring semester, and you will see that it was pretty well received by students. You'll note that a student withdrew when she was failing. Another student dropped when he withdrew rather during the semester, and before we actually got started into the meat of the semester, if you will, and hopefully you understand the terminology, but basically dropped means they signed up, and then before we got beyond the refund period, they said, never mind. So result was 27 students completed the semester of that initial 102 that were offered, or 31 that accepted. 27 completed the semester, and you see the grade distribution there. And so pretty good success in terms of first attempt and for students progressing. I was asked if GPA went up, down, or what effect, and quite frankly, it was too small a sample size to draw any conclusion, any significant conclusion, as well as the fact that, again, these were B students and above, and so there was very little latitude for the GPA to change too much in terms of capacity. But nevertheless, we believe that this was a successful exposure to an alternative program for some students. As I mentioned, we are continuing this in Lafayette, and it's being reviewed by other regions within the college. Some of my colleagues, as well as commission staff, heard about this, so this is being considered to continue. In my case, in Lafayette, 94 additional students have been invited to participate. We've had some success so far, but registration continues through the 25th, and so we hope to get some more involved. So, in conclusion, my hope is that you will understand, and I'm sure you do, that we have at Ivy Tech and we have in the realm of higher education opportunities to serve students in a multitude of ways. And there is not one magic bullet, but rather by giving opportunities that might be appropriate for students, they can drive success for our goals as well as to help students be successful. And so Ivy Tech serves a large number of part-time students. We hope that that mission will continue because there are significant numbers, and of students that need to go part-time for many reasons. There are people that absolutely have the ability and the time and other resources to go full-time. And if we can help make them aware what full-time might mean, more than 12 hours, then that might be appropriate for them too. But in my belief, and the reason I brought this program to our campus was to provide a menu of choices to best serve the varying needs of our student body. Any questions?
Hearing none, I'll just say that I hope they receive the change to finish t-shirts and chapsticks and bags was some consolation for the merging of slogans.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
We appreciated that great goodie bag or boxes that came recently. Thank you.
Thank you. For our last panelist, we're going to talk with David McFadden, new president of Manchester University. Manchester has been a flat rate institution for some time, and as I understand it, we'll hear about ways that that is facilitating not just on-time completion, but actually accelerated completion at your institution.
Thank you, Sarah. I've been at Manchester as president for 6 weeks, but I've been at the university for 21 years. The bulk of that time in my career before was in enrollment and marketing, admissions, financial aid, retention. So this idea of on-time completion is something that I've worked with my entire career. I don't have a PowerPoint to share with you today because usually before July 1st I would have brought a PowerPoint with funny pictures to help you stay awake. I've been told since that that's what needs me as president, so I don't know what to do. I will have instead a standard boring presidential presentation.
I will talk one.
The mental picture that came to mind for me when I first started thinking about this idea of block tuition versus per credit tuition was a college cafeteria line, right? When I went to Manchester as an undergraduate, we paid in the cafeteria line for every plate that you took. So if you bought an extra apple, it was 50 cents. If you got extra ketchup or salad dressing, it was a quarter, right? And it seemed to us that they were trying to get us to eat just enough or even a little less when we went through. So today we have a buffet. It's an all you care to eat. And the job that we have is to help students make good choices, right? It's not about taking as little as you can, to have your choices be shaped by what you have in your wallet, but rather what's good for you on a particular day or a particular year. So the good news, in contrast to that food line, is that if you overindulge on academic credits, only your head gets fat, right? And the notion of freshman 15 takes on a new. So one of the things that we've done at Manchester, we've had block tuition for decades, since the 30s and before. And the current structure of that block tuition is that students can take 12 to 16 hours, and we have what's called a 3-1-3 calendar, 3 courses in 3 months in the fall, a course in January session, and 3 in the spring, 3 months in the spring. So a student who signs up full-time in the fall using block tuition can take 12 to 16 plus 3 or 4 in January for free. Or if they're full-time in the spring, they can take January for free as well. If you are a student with a 3.0 GPA, you can take up to 18 hours. And if you are a good student and apply to the Academic Standards Committee, you can take even a more significant overload than that. So the typical student takes 15, 3, and 15, 33 hours. A 3.0 student can take 18, 3, and 18. And we have students who take not significant overloads, but 18, 3, and 18 for 4 years and find either 11 credits in dual enrollment credits that they bring with them, or AP credits, or a couple of extra courses, and can finish in 3 years just by accelerating their course. So there's significant benefit for students as they work through that. When I think about the benefits to our students and the enhancements that this brings to us when we think about retention and time to graduation, one is that it gives families better predictability when it comes to paying their bill. When they register in the summer, especially first-year students, they know what their tuition is going to be. If they take 4, 5, 6 classes, they know what that cost is. One of the biggest hurdles that we've found for incoming students, keeping students out of college entirely, is arriving 2 or 3 weeks before school starts and finding a bump in the road because their finances aren't what they expect. There's an extra charge, or their financial aid isn't what they thought they were eligible for. Having a clear tuition rate helps alleviate that. They can add a course, they can drop a course as long as they're not full time. They can add or drop without any consequence on their bill, doesn't change their financial aid, doesn't change their scholarships. So that's very important. But the more important thing for us academically is that students have much more flexibility. They make, as with the buffet line, they make academic choices for academic reasons rather than academic choices for monetary reasons, right? So we have students who can take extra classes in double major or triple major at no extra cost. They can take courses which complement their majors, or they can simply broaden their skills. If they want to study in an area outside of their major, they can do that at additional cost. If they change their major in the middle of their 4 years, they can take the extra classes that they need to complete on time. It doesn't set them back a year or 2 years. And finally, there are some students who I've heard people say their parents want them to take a lighter load in the first semester. They're able to do that. They're able to take 12 hours during transition time, or if they're going to have to take organic chemistry and anatomy and physiology in the same semester, they can choose to take a lighter load, even if they're a good student, in a particularly heavy semester, without derailing their ability to finish. What we found is that the advantages for our students are across the board, from strong students to our weaker students. Stronger students are able to accelerate graduation or enhance their curriculum, do more than they could have otherwise. Weaker students are able to mix lighter and heavier loads based on their readiness for those semesters, and they all are able to finish at the same time. Dennis talked about creating a culture of education, a culture of success and completion. With a block tuition, students just assume that they're going to be full-time. That's the norm. The expectation is that you're full-time and you're on your path to graduate in 4 years. There's a number that we talk about that's relevant here, and that is on-time completion. Right? This is not our graduation. This is not what percentage of the incoming cohort finishes. That varies a lot from school to school. But what percentage of a group that graduates in 4 years? They earn their degree from Manchester. How many of them graduated in 4 years? And the way you calculate this is you take the 4-year completers and you divide that number, the percentage, by the percentage of 6-year completers. 6 years is amazingly the standard definition of how long it takes to complete a 4-year degree. So you take the 4 years, divide by the 6 years, and you get a percentage. So at Manchester, on average, 79% of our graduates finish their degree in 4 years. That's not a number that we're immensely proud of, 79% in 4 years. But let me compare it to 3 of the flagship institutions in the state of Indiana. The numbers that I have for Purdue, IU, and Ball State come from Forbes magazine. I checked it against a number of other data sets that are available publicly. IU, 73% of their graduates finish in 4 years. At Purdue and at Butler, 56% finish in 4 years. So this time to completion is a significant number. I didn't pull a number like that comparing places like Purdue North Central or IPFW, where the student bodies, demographics are vastly different. But most of the students in those institutions are working to finish in 4 years. So that's one way that we can look at. That's a metric we can use to talk about progress toward 4-year completion. You should know, as several others have said, that Manchester is deeply invested in its student success. So in addition to this kind of standard operating procedure of using block tuition, we've invested in a number of things to help our students finish on time, to incentivize them to finish on time. Almost a decade ago, we introduced something called the Triple Guarantee. It guarantees that every full-time student will receive financial aid from Manchester, not state aid or federal aid, but from Manchester, that they can graduate in 4 years if they're full-time students, and if they don't, we will give them free tuition for the tuition credits they need to graduate, and that they will be in a job or in graduate school within 6 months of graduating, and if they're not, they can return tuition free for a 5th year to make themselves more marketable. Now, I'll be honest with you. Every student takes advantage of the financial aid guarantee. Very few students have come back to us and said, I need more time to finish, or I need more time to become more marketable, because it's part of that culture of success. We say, we want you to succeed, we guarantee you'll succeed, and here's how we do it. And then lastly, I appreciate Commissioner Lumbers mentioning Purdue's 3-year program that they just announced. In 2008, we started a 3-year program called Fast Forward that allows students in any major at Manchester to finish in 3 years, 3 academic years at a regular load, plus 2 summers. Or if they take an overload, they can finish in 3 years and 1 summer. It gets them into the job market sooner, it saves them moving forward, it saves them substantially on tuition. By our calculations, it can save them between $40,000 and $50,000 in that point. It's a $40,000 or $50,000 difference maker there. So the benefits of finishing on time are many. Lower student debt, time to degree that matches their expectations and matches the promise that we make as an institution, and their ability to get out into the workforce more quickly. That's what we aspire to for them, and that's what they look for as well. So I appreciate your hearing this discussion. It reflects your commitment to helping students finish on time, and I appreciate the chance to talk.
I will thank the panelists.
Can I ask a question, John? You mentioned ASAP, so with the discussion today, is that, do you do anything with that program?
I do some, yes.
Yes, I assume. And we just got our first cohort here in the Muncie area. 21 students just started that program. And with this discussion today, is there anything you can draw from that, which is getting your associate's degree in 1 year, correct?
Correct.
It's about 10 times the completion rate for an associate's degree from the rest of Ivy Tech.
Yes.
10 times better.
Yes.
Which is amazing. But it's a small number still. There's only a few cohorts, right, that come out of Lafayette and a couple other places. So what do you take from that intensity, the intense program, and the high rate of completion?
Well, I would reiterate my statement that choice to meet needs of students at different points in their lives and with different skill sets is the key to success, and not one model for everyone. And so in the case of the ASAP program, there are strong criteria that if the students fit that criteria, they are invited to participate. They do very well and very successfully, but that program is not for all students. Just like, in my opinion, the 15 to finish is not appropriate for all students. So it's a matter of providing that menu of options to meet the students. Challenge them, yes, but burden them, absolutely not. And so it's different institutional missions, different criteria within an institution, and meeting the needs of students where they are, and working to support them and help them be successful, much more than the specific program design. I believe it's the way to go.
Sarah, could I follow up also with just mention of one other thing that we do, since accelerated programs have come up for both other institutions. And I just want to mention that we have also had an accelerated program at Purdue North Central that's been going on for a couple of years. We call it our 1+3 program. So students who have taken current enrollment credit in the local school corporations, with 7 of those school corporations, we have set up a program so that students can complete an entire year of their Purdue North Central degree program at that school. And so they can come into Purdue North Central as a sophomore. And we set up a very intentional pathway for students in 3 different majors. Students can come in as sophomores in biology, business, or human resources, or they can complete our entire general education program via concurrent enrollment. So that's another way that our students, it's been a very successful program. They can come in and readily complete in 3 years on the university campus.
And the only thing I would add is that 2 of those schools have a free and reduced lunch rate of 70 and 60%. So that means they're not paying for any of those courses in the 1+3 program.
Really, lots of really innovative, interesting things happening. And Mr. Terry, if I have one more question.
So I think that this is very intriguing concept and I want to deep a little bit more and ask a lot of probing questions, but in the interest of time, I just really want to limit to one general one, more based on definition so that we can better understand. I'm a little bit perhaps parked in the taxation lexicon of flat rate, so I need a little bit help understanding what it is that it is meant between flat rate and banded. I'm hearing them used in a way that makes me think they might mean the same thing, but they may not. I've been trying to do some research, trying to figure out if I can answer my own question without taking everybody's time, but I'm seeing it used in different ways. So perhaps you can help me understand that, maybe the rest of us, as to exactly what that flat rate means versus banded rate. And then a secondary question to that is, what is the general feeling of the institutions in which you're doing work right now based on the flat rate concept? Just thinking about it fiscally, I mean, you're going to have implications to this, not just in the short term, but if it does take flight longer term. I just want to understand whether culturally there's an acceptance there. You mentioned that earlier in your presentation, but I wanted to get a deeper understanding. So 2-part question, and I won't have any more follow-ups.
Well, it's important to note that Purdue, West Lafayette's been doing a flat tuition rate for a long time. And what that is it's the same cost of attendance, whether you're taking, let's just say 12 credit hours or 18 credit hours. Once you hit a threshold of credit hours, the cost does not change. That's how we define flat tuition rate. Once you hit a certain threshold of credit hours, no matter how many more you take, it's the same cost. I don't know about the banded definition. Maybe that would be something that the others can speak to.
And there's usually an upper limit too, so perhaps that's what banded refers to, say between 12 and 18. And then if you're taking 21 credits, there's often an additional charge.
So you go to different bands?
Yes, I'll jump in here. That typically a banded tuition is going to be, within a certain range. So it's most often 12 to 18 or 12 to 15. A flat rate would, a pure flat rate would be, the exact same for anything from 1 credit to infinite credit. But a band is typically what you see, and that's, there's some parameters around what that rate bias is.
And that's pretty much what's going on. So flat and banded is just the banded puts the guardrails around the flat rate. Okay, that's, thank you. And then the second question on the cultural acceptance of the, I know you've had it for a long time, but there's not a general acceptance across the spectrum. Everybody's
I think it would depend on who you talk with. I think if you talk with faculty, most of them would be very much, at least at Purdue Center, would be in favor of flat or banded. Really, I think what we're talking about is more banded. You reach an upper limit. You don't want to encourage students, except perhaps an exception case that you take too many credits. So I think you'd see a lot of acceptance from faculty. I think it would be a change. It's not something that the Purdue regional campuses have done historically. So I think that's one of the barriers. So I think it would just depend on, and certainly there are financial implications. You're absolutely right. So any institution that would move in that direction would have to do so carefully and mindfully in terms of what are the financial implications and how do we make it work so that this is a win-win for the institution and for the student. But I think, to me, of course, uppermost has got to be the student. What is going to benefit students?
concerning the use of band or tuition as a strategy for student success and completion. It was provided ahead of time, so unless one feels the need to, we will have to do the resolution word by word. I would ask if there was a motion to accept the resolution. Have moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The resolution is passed.
It's a good thing you asked for the definition, Susie, before we vote.
But, yeah, I would encourage us as we look at these, particularly this resolution, we have the title banded tuition, and the rest of the body refers to flat rate. And then we have flat rate and banded, so we should recommend we use one term and stick with it.
Duly noted. Great point. Great catch. Now, as we continue our discussion about alignment between higher education and the labor market, we have the opportunity to hear about the Indiana Chamber's annual employer sales survey. We have 2% information on the survey. In March, she served as Director of Housing to the Readiness Initiatives for the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. President March, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, members of the commission. I'm happy to be here and share. This is our 7th annual employer survey. We'll get the results in June. And I'll just start with, I put this as a conversation, and you feel free to ask questions and share your reactions to the survey as we go. The function of the survey is really to inform the program services and the policy advocacy areas as they relate to the workforce needs of our member companies and organizations. We hope that the survey tells the story of the workforce needs in the state of Indiana, and I will be going around to the work council meetings to share this story with them as well, and anyone else who asks, because I think that what is reflected in the survey is important as it relates to our workforce needs. I also think that there is a good relationship to many of the things that this commission discusses. First of all, in the results, you'll see the reflection of your 50% goal, your big goal, and I'll point that out as we get to it. The other piece that I think is reflected in the results is that we hope the results speak to demand-side information that's distributed to students and counselors through Learn More Indiana. I think that could be a big benefit add that the employer survey could bring to the commission. So the employer survey itself, we sent this to 10,000 employers around the state of Indiana. We had our highest response rate ever. Our membership is about 5,000, so we sent this far beyond just the members of the chamber so that it could be reflective of the entire state. You can see the distribution of who responded to the survey throughout the reports that you have. And I want to draw you to just a couple of the big high points that we found that we point out to others as we walk through this. On page 3, and I know Sarah mentioned this to me earlier today, we used very loosely the employability skills framework that was developed by the U.S. Department of Education. This was also adopted by the Career Council, the Indian Career Council, and the Strategic Plan recently. So we loosely used those measurements to, can you hear me? Gotcha. We loosely used those to identify the applied skills that are necessary to perform well in the job. And you'll see that work ethic was identified as the most challenging to find skill from employers. When we go around to each of the regions around the state, we are breaking this down by regional responses, and work ethic always comes out in the top 2 or 3. Communication is always in the top 2 or 3. What the USDOE's employability page 4, the next page, this was really our headline. When we released the survey results, our headline was that 39% of employers who responded to this in the state, 39% could not find qualified workers for the openings that they had. Along with that, 57% indicated that they will expand their workforce in the next calendar year. So we're looking at a lot of opportunity here, a lot of opportunity as it relates to the students who are earning these degree-like credentials. We just have to find those skills and teach those skills in some inventive ways. Also on page 4, I mentioned the relationship to the big goal, the 60% goal. And you'll see that 68% of respondents indicated that the jobs left unfilled were in those middle and high skilled areas, which are jobs that require some kind of post-secondary credential. A 4-year degree would be the high skilled jobs, and then middle skilled would be beyond high school, but the sub-baccalaureate level. So the final couple of pieces that I want to bring you to, the last few pages, as I said earlier, we were hoping that this would inform the programs and services provided by the Chamber to our members. We wanted to know what relationship do our members have with the schools, the K-12 and community colleges in their area, and 43% responded that they have no relationship with those schools. So that relationship could be defined as internships, it could be job shadowing, it could be anything. We want to help promote those relationships to be more meaningful and sustainable so that we can impact those workforce needs in the future. And one other piece I want to point out on the final page, second to last page, the Department of Workforce Development is trying to reinstitute the work ethics certificate, which tracks and monitors the students' behaviors around work ethics and communications and all of these pieces that we see missing throughout the student's high school career. So what was interesting to us here was that 87% of the respondents indicated sight unseen have no relationship with this certificate, that it would be interesting to them. That they would want students coming to them, even though they don't know what it is, they want students coming to them with some sort of certification indicating that they have that work ethics demonstrated throughout their educational career. Any questions or reactions or thoughts on how the Chamber can engage with this information? I would just mention, thank you. Amy and I were at a meeting yesterday at the Chamber that convened about 25 people or so to look at the topic that I know we've committed to looking at more this year, which is the work-based education and how students are experiencing throughout their college an opportunity to be working in an employment situation. And we made a commitment to look at this and probably have our Relevant Conference next year committed to this as well. And the discovery, well, I think this is less true than it used to be when folks were really talking over and at each other in terms of employers and higher education and education generally. I think it's a much better environment than it used to be. But having said that, we still use very different lexicons about how we approach things, and there have been several studies that have come out recently about how higher education believes they are preparing people for the job market, and how employers say that they're getting people who are not prepared for the job market, and this disconnect. And I think both groups have to own this. I think the survey indicates that while employers want people to come in with certain skill sets, they're not at this point engaged in their high school very much still. The overwhelming majority had not had any involvement in that, and they come to the fact that their new employees are either high school graduates going straight into a career, or college graduates are not prepared for the job once they get there in the job. So I think the lesson for us is, how do we talk to each other better? I think we're doing better about this whole thing. Understand what the needs are with the workforce and know that earlier. And then how do we have our students to experience real life work-based experiences before they either, one, end up their senior year in college and realize they have a wrong major, and it's not really what they want to do, or they're not prepared for, a job that's going to be out there in the area they really want, their employment. So I just think there's a lot to learn from this, and I think that the most instructive part is the need to really communicate better with this. And I'm hoping that we can actually be very engaged with this. I know USA Funds is interested in, funding some work around this area, and especially making Indiana an exemplar, I think, in this area of work-based education and what that might mean. So I think this helps us sort of begin to use the data without having it be, we prejudice one way or bias one way. It is what it is, and how do we take this data and now use it?
The really encouraging piece to me is also that this is happening in so many different conversations. As you know, through the Career Council, this was reflected through that strategic plan, this idea of better connecting working and learning systems, and that communication piece.
Amy, since you have spent time looking at this and looking at it, I'm certain exhaustively, where you have not as much time to look through it, can you summarize your findings or your observations or areas that seem to jump out for you to make it informative of us as we talk about higher education?
That headline is really what jumps out the most to me and to the staff of the chamber, and that is that 39% of employers left the job unfilled. And those same employers are going to expand their workforce, which means additional jobs to fill. So the jobs exist, and these are by and large middle skilled and high skilled jobs. So they exist. So how do we find the right match for students to get to those jobs, to find those jobs, and how do we make sure that they have opportunity to be successful once they're in those jobs? And that success would be, I think, defined from the employer side as having those soft skills.
Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Two more questions.
And do you find in your research and your survey, were there any questions or information given as to continuing education or augmented skill education within the workforce once we're in?
We did ask that. We asked about tuition reimbursement policies and opportunities with employers. Anecdotally, when we shared this with chamber members, what we heard was, and again, it's not reflected in the survey, but what they shared was they will pay for those tuition, those continuing education experiences. They will have some kind of tuition reimbursement policy. And then those individuals leave that. So they have to rethink those policies and modify them to make it worth their investment.
I think that's very helpful, and I think we're living that right now in my company. But I was wondering, once the candidates come in and they're missing some skills, so I found that we have to offer them almost internally, as they sort of focus on and custom make some sort of bring in consultants or bring in people to train our workforce on the skills they should come in with, not for writing the bandmite systems, but people are missing some very basic skills, and I'm just wondering if that popped up here above and beyond tuition reimbursement.
It did. We asked that question, and employers who responded spent $3.6 million total on in-house training.
That's
Of those who responded.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
In this survey, what percentage of the employees or applicants applying would have likely been college graduates? Because I think that this covers the full range of employment. Companies hire more non-college prepared students than people who have been college graduates. What kind of percentage do you think?
Well, so of those jobs that went unfilled,
So I don't know that the two questions in the area that you're asking, we can draw a relationship to those two. 30% of the respondents left jobs unfilled in high-skilled areas. So you're right, it's not all the bachelor's level, but I don't know if that really can answer your question.
As a matter of improving higher education, because if any significant percentage of the people who responded to this are talking about college graduates, they say that two of the three highest level of deficiencies, or at least three of them, two of the highest four raised deficiencies were communication and problem solving. And if we don't have good communication skills and problem solving skills that to be measured from college, then the failure is significant in one of the institutions. I assume it's a small, or a smaller number of people being evaluated on the issue who would be college graduates already. But it's still something that the institutions ought to be learning from.
I will try to do that for you. I will try to tease out those respondents who said they were missing high-skilled jobs and how they responded to this specific question about the skills missing. And I'll send that to commission staff to share with you if I'm able to do that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your input and your insight. Now we will transition over to academic programs. And first academic program is an expedited item. And just to explain to our new commission members, expedited items, these items have been reviewed by our academic affairs and quality committee. And this is a free program that was deemed worthy to go into the expedited category, where that took the full review of the entire commission, but it's reviewed thoroughly by the members of the academic affairs and quality committee. And so you'll see that information in your packet. It's on starting on page 41. It's the Bachelor of Art and Sustainability to be offered by Indiana University, South Bend. I have a motion.
Yes, I'd like to explain ahead of time that I feel kind of compelled to vote no on this. Excuse me, not because the university, but I just, in reviewing it, I noticed the term sustainability generally means that we're worried about global warming caused by fossil fuels.
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
If I could respectfully, as a point of order, could we ask for the motion in the second?
Okay, certainly.
Thank you. So motion and a second, and please discussion.
Okay, as I say, my concern is that there's the assumption that as I review the document, that global warming is one of the main bases for talking about sustainability, assuming that carbon is the pollutant that's causing global warming, which is not a settled science. And there are many physicists that do not agree with that assumption, and that I'm concerned that our country is in a difficult position because we have not worked on developing our natural resources and becoming energy independent. And we need to be energy independent, as we know, because of the world situation where we're not able to, we're providing billions of dollars to the Middle East, which is in turn funding the terrorists. And so I know that these courses are available. It's just that in principle, I just don't feel like I can vote for it.
If I may, I'd like to maybe give you a different definition of sustainability, although I agree fundamentally with everything you just said. In the way we use and we apply the terminology of sustainability in the corporate reporting, that we do that, I'm sure a corporation does as well, is based on the behaviors of the corporation within the communities in which it does business, and the behaviors of its manufacturing facilities and so on. Some of it does include its emissions, its carbon footprint, and many of the different definitions that may or may not be applicable, but it also is contributions to the communities in which it does business, whether they're involved in philanthropies, and whether they have a ISO certifications, whether they've got workforce injury components and mechanisms to stop injuries and so on. So as we go into sustainability reporting, we subscribe to the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, which is a Wall Street index that tracks behavior of corporations in sustainability practices. So there's the terminology of sustainability has expanded to include much more corporate behavior than just environmental performance. That's just one portion of it. And as I read this, it says that it assesses the economic and social impact of a project on the community, inclusive of that environment. So I think they're looking at that broader global definition based on the Wall Street standards and what I think initially started off as more carbon-based initiative that was running much further than that.
Yeah, I gather that there are certainly other aspects, but it's clear that the carbon footprint is probably a very prominent part of this forest. But I certainly support preserving our natural resources, but I just think that at some point we have to decide whether or not we're going to become energy independent. And I think it bothers me that we are going to be perpetuating the idea that we can't develop our natural resources and our fossil fuels.
Any other discussion?
I have the impression that this is not throughout the kind of social movement or political movement. It was directed at, it was mentioned before, it's a practical issue for businesses and for communities to obey the laws and also to be inventive in creating access to sources of energy. Sustainability is a neutral word. It does not mean loyalty to some idea of global warming. I think it is more practical in the sense that there are lots of people in the area where yourself is located who would like to know more and have people advocate their businesses with the correct regulations that's emerging. We're not taking a position on whether it's good regulation or not. I think that was the sense that I had from the community. This will not produce results. It's not like it's designed to be a cause for
Any other input before we take a vote? Call for the question.
Thank you very much. I'll introduce myself for the benefit of you commission members. I'm Margie Ferguson. I'm Assistant Vice President for Statewide Academic Relations for IU. Thank you. I'm mindful of your time, and I'll go quickly, but be very happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm presenting here today with the help of three of my colleagues who I'll introduce in a moment, a Doctor of Occupational Therapy to be offered at IUPUI in the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences. As you know, of course, IUPUI has a primary focus or major focus in the health and life sciences, and so this is a particularly well-prepared program to be offered at IUPUI. Our department already has a master's program, which is very well regarded nationally, it has a national reputation. And this degree, we believe, is very well aligned with the skills and expertise of our faculty, the mission of our university, and it's also very much aligned to the needs of the economic system and the healthcare system going forward. Occupational therapy is a growing practice. The demand is both strong and growing, in fact. But if you look in your package, you'll have a lot of information about employment opportunities for occupational therapists, both in academia and also as practitioners. As it is among practitioners, the demand for occupational therapists is expected to grow 30% by the year 2020. And at the same time that there is this current demand, there are additional expectations being placed on occupational therapists with the changing nature of medicine and the opportunity to serve patients who might have not even lived in the past, that they might survive because of changing technology, and with the help of occupational therapists, live to have greater functionality even in the aftermath of accident or illness. So there are greater challenges facing OTs, which leads to a greater need for training and additional expertise. At the same time, even now, faculty members are in short supply for occupational therapy, so there are offices, there are spaces going unfilled in occupational therapy positions in our universities in the country. And at the same time, further, our national organizations for occupational therapists are calling for higher levels of training for OTs, and at the same time, of course, therefore calling for higher levels of training for the faculty who will train those practitioners going forward. So it's workforce aligned. We have the expertise at IUPUI to provide this program, and we are looking forward to an opportunity to talk to you about it. I have with me here the Dean of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, Professor Ostinago. I have the Chair of Occupational Therapy, Professor Thomas Fisher, and I have another faculty member and leader in the Department of Occupational Therapy, Professor Jeffrey Crabtree. They are the experts, of course, and so I'm happy for them to help you answer any questions that you have.
Very much, Ms. Ferguson. Any questions from commission members?
I presume there's more work now with returning veterans.
And the short answer is yes. They want to shake your heads every year.
We actually have someone provide commentary to that question.
I apologize ahead of time. I'm hearing impaired, so could you use your mic, please?
Sure. Would you actually expound upon the question that was asked regarding the return of military veterans and the need for occupational services?
Yes, absolutely. As more and more veterans are returned from all of the wars that we're fighting, many of them have serious neurological diseases. Many of them have post-traumatic stress syndrome. Lots of problems as a result of their experiences. And one of the things that has happened recently in healthcare in general and in neuroscience is a better understanding of the nervous system. It used to be thought that maybe by age 11 or 12, the nervous system was pretty well fixed. Not true. Right now, throughout the life cycle, the nervous system is more plastic and able to be changed. So this opens up lots of opportunities for healthcare professionals to provide services to, in this case, the veterans that we're talking about, that were not available or perhaps were not understood in the past. And occupational therapists work with folks in terms of their daily activities. being able to dress, groom, being able to seek work, being able to work. So it's just, the changes in healthcare are just making more and more opportunities for occupational therapists. And that's one of the reasons why we need this post-professional degree, because this will enable a cadre of occupational therapists who require some strong leadership skills and some new techniques that would be very valuable. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a question, I have a comment, a positive comment. From personal experience, my husband had an accident a year ago, and it truly was the occupational therapist helping him with daily activities that enhanced his life greatly. I have seen a personal need for what occupational therapists, as well as speech and physical therapists do, and how a number of years ago, he might have been bedridden and not able to do any of his daily activities, and that absolutely is not the case based on what this degree-seeking person is able to do to help. So this doctorate, I understand, based on the academic affairs committee meeting, will assist the colleges to be able to train more occupational therapists, and because we know more about what the outcomes can be, even though my experience is anecdotal, it's very brief. So I just wanted to make that comment of how important this can be as to quality of life.
Thank you for your comments.
So Karen, I think you just addressed my primary question, and I just want to make sure I get this correct. The purpose of the doctorate would be more of an aggregator, kind of train the trainer kind of thing, so you have more professors and more people that can actually train more students
Yes.
versus getting them out into the hospitals and practice.
Well,
Is that the goal?
It's actually both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's to train people to teach, because there is a shortage of doctorally prepared occupational therapists in teaching programs throughout the U.S. and a shortage here. We have a couple of letters in that packet that you're giving of folks from institutions who are saying, please give us some doctorally trained faculty, but then also in practice as well.
Great, thank you.
And just to make sure that before long, the schools that prepare people for the practice of occupational therapy will have to have a certain growing number of people prepared as doctoral level to be faculty, so that the schools, not just Indiana University, but all the schools that prepare people for occupational therapy careers will have to have more of these doctorally prepared faculty.
Any more questions? All right, thank you. And I believe that Dr. Style will present the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. We've had a good discussion of both the way in which graduates of these programs, of this program, might be used with respect to the advancing clinical skills, also serving the need for faculty for occupational therapy programs. I would point out that in the nonprofit sector, the University of Indianapolis has an accredited master's program. They're sort of moving to an entry-level doctoral program. Two other institutions in the independent sector are also developing occupational therapy programs, so this program will be an important feeder to those programs. In addition to the master's program at IUPUI, we also have a program at USI and a program that the Commission approved not too long ago at Indiana State. That's still emerging, and there again is going to be a need for faculty for those programs. One final comment, and that is if there is one campus in the state where we really would want to see a Doctor of Occupational Therapy program, it's at the IUPUI campus with its clear, strong statewide role in healthcare education. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would offer the staff recommendation, which is that the Commission approve the Doctor of Occupational Therapy to be offered by Indiana University at IUPUI in accordance with the background discussion in the agenda item and the program description. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very welcome, Dr. Style. Our staff has made a recommendation for the doctoral program of occupational therapy. We have a motion. I'm going to approve the motion.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. The doctoral program is approved. Thank you very much. I will note for members of the commission, the information items beginning on page 75